Vancouver's about to change in a way most people have no idea about. Everyone's focused on the headline projects, the Broadway Plan, Oak Ridge, Jericho Lands, Scenic, but there's a new framework quietly moving through City Hall that's going to redefine how and where people live in the city over the next 10 to 20 years. And here's the thing, it's not a single tower or a flashy luxury redevelopment. It's a citywide strategy that's going to reach into hundreds of neighborhood blocks, reshape local streets, and determine what your community looks like by 2030. It's called the Vancouver Plan, and inside it sits something most people haven't even heard about, the Villages strategy. And if you own property in the city, if you're planning to buy in the next few years, or if you're trying to understand what direction Vancouver is really headed, this is the part of the plan you need to pay attention to. For decades, Vancouver has planned neighborhoods one at a time. From Mount Pleasant, the West End, Cambie Corridor, Kitsilano are all separate plans done in isolation. That worked when growth was moderate, but the city's now staring down a population that could hit 1 million within the next 20 years. We've hit the limits of piecemeal planning. So in 2022, Council approved something different, a comprehensive roadmap for how the entire 110 square kilometers of Vancouver will evolve. How we grow housing, where jobs go, how transit connects, and how we maintain livability through it all. And that is the Vancouver Plan. But within that massive framework is the part that will affect the largest number of homeowners. Not the mega projects, not the towers, it's the Villages Plan. Because while mega projects make headlines, villages change the streets you actually walk in every single day. City planners identified 25 neighborhood nodes scattered across Vancouver. Think of them as existing micro centers, small clusters of shops, cafes, or transit stops that already have some local energy but haven't truly developed into full community hubs. Out of those 25, the city selected 17 villages for focused redevelopment between 2026 and 2035. And together, these 17 zones cover roughly 600 city blocks, which actually makes this program larger than the Broadway Plan itself in geographic scale. The Broadway Plan, for reference, covers 500 city blocks. The goal is simple: take underutilized car-dependent corners of the city and turn them into walkable, mixed-use neighborhoods where people can live, shop, and work local without getting into a car. We're talking about modest growth, 3 to 6 story low-rises, stacked townhomes, corner retail, local plazas with small parks, the kind of human scale density that already defines Vancouver's most loved neighborhoods such as Commercial Drive, Main Street, or Kitsilano. This is about spreading that livability out across the rest of the city of Vancouver. Projects like Oak Ridge or Jericho grab attention because they're huge billion-dollar redevelopments. But here's the truth, they represent just a few city blocks each. The Villages Plan affects 10 times that footprint. And while a single tower may change a skyline, these villages will change daily life, where kids go to school, where people buy groceries, and where small businesses survive. That's why this plan is the sleeper story of the decade for Vancouver real estate. It's the connective tissue that will link all those isolated neighborhoods into a unified city. Before 2022, Vancouver's growth strategy was heavily focused on transit-oriented development. Essentially build as high and as dense as possible around SkyTrain stations. That's what created the clusters you see today: Brentwood, Marine Gateway, and Oak Ridge Center. But the problem is that approach left massive portions of the city untouched. Whole corridors between those nodes stayed frozen in time. Detached homes, single-story retail, and empty commercial strips with almost no foot traffic. At the same time, affordability continued to collapse because new supply was concentrated in expensive high-rise formats. The Villages Plan is designed to fix all of that. Instead of only building upward, the city wants to build outward lightly. More housing options sprinkled across existing neighborhoods, duplexes, fourplexes, sixplexes, and small apartment buildings. That's how you grow a city without losing its soul and character. Each of these 17 villages will go through its own localized design framework, essentially a miniature neighborhood plan guided by the overall Vancouver Plan. These frameworks outline the following: allowable building forms and height, where retail and public space should go, pedestrian and cycle connections, and infrastructure needs like schools or childcare. Think of it as the city pre-zoning future opportunity. So when developers come forward with proposals, they won't need to start from scratch. The city will already have a roadmap saying, yes, we want density here, and here is how much we want. That predictability speeds up approvals dramatically, which means more housing can actually get built. The city's early projections estimate the village's plan alone could accommodate upwards of 50,000 new homes over the next 20 years, all outside of the main SkyTrain corridors. That's a major shift in where future growth will happen. What makes this difference is just the sheer scale. Instead of 30 or 40-story towers, we're talking about townhomes and stacked townhomes, low-rise wood-frame condos, boutique mixed-use buildings with ground floor shops, purpose-built rental with amenities like daycares or co-working spaces. The intent is to bring density that still feels human, that fits within existing neighborhoods without overwhelming them. For property owners, that means opportunity. If your lot sits inside or near one of those new village boundaries, your land value could rise significantly once zoning changes are approved. For buyers, it means a chance to own new construction in areas that were previously off limits or unaffordable. It's a middle ground Vancouver has been missing. Not a detached house for $2 million, not a downtown micro condo for $900,000, but attainable multifamily homes in real Vancouver areas. During the public consultation period earlier this year, the city received thousands of submissions. The top concerns: density coming too fast, loss of parking, small businesses being displaced, and strain on infrastructure. These are all legitimate worries, but most of the pushback has focused on misunderstanding what kind of density this really is. This isn't the Broadway plan with towers every block. It's adding 2 or 3 stories above what is already there today. Gentle transitions that maintain the character of established streets while making them a lot more livable. The other major question is how the 17 villages were chosen. The city hasn't provided a clear explanation for why certain nodes made the list and others did not. For instance, stretches like Main and 33rd or King Edward and Fraser weren't included, even though they're natural community hubs. Meanwhile, some areas like McDonald and Mackenzie from 16th to 41st have 4 villages stacked almost back to back. There's logic to it. Infrastructure, available land, transit proximity, but the selection process hasn't fully been transparent. And that's led to the skepticism from both residences and developers alike. Whenever the city channels development into new areas, people ask the same questions. Does this take energy away from established commercial streets like Main or Fraser? It might redistribute it, but not necessarily in a bad way. Right now, Vancouver's busiest strips are overwhelmed. Try getting a table on Main Street on a Saturday night. It's absolutely packed. Adding new mini main streets throughout the city spreads that activity out, creates new restaurant zones, supports small retailers, and keeps neighborhood economies healthy without overloading any one area. In the long run, that could actually protect the character of those existing hubs rather than dilute them completely. The underlying philosophy behind the village's plan aligns with what urban planners call the 15-minute city model. The idea that everything you need should be accessible within a short walk or bike ride from your home. Vancouver's always been halfway there, but this plan is there to finish it completely. Picture more cafes, small grocers, childcare centers, pocket parks, and fitness studios sprinkled across the city rather than clustered downtown. It's a lifestyle shift that appeals to buyers who want community, not commute. And from a real estate perspective, that's exactly where long-term value lives. The consultation phase wrapped up mid-2025, and city staff are now consolidating feedback and preparing recommendations for council. The expectation is a formal presentation and vote in early 2026. Once adopted, rezonings could begin immediately after, with the first visible changes showing up around 2027. If you're investing, that's your timeline to watch. The early adopters, those who buy land or pre-existing homes near these future village zones before the zonings are finalized, stand to benefit the most once new building forms are allowed. Think of how early buyers near Cambie Station or Brentwood did years ago. It's the same principle here. Now let's talk economics here for a second. Vancouver's affordability crisis isn't going away. The village's plan isn't a silver bullet, but it's a step towards balance. Smaller scale multifamily homes are faster and cheaper to build than concrete high rises, and that means lower per unit costs, which in turn should create more inventory in the 800 to 1.2 million range rather than the 1.8 million to 2 million range. And when you multiply that by 50,000 potential new homes over 20 years, the impact could be very meaningful. Developers are also watching closely because this type of zoning opens the door for small cap projects. Local builders, infill specialists, and family-run firms that were priced out of large tower developments. This diversifies who can build in Vancouver, spreading opportunity beyond the handful of major players. In short, more builders, more formats, and more homes. If you've lived in Vancouver for a while, you already know change is constant. But most change in the city has been dramatic. Single-family homes replaced by duplexes, heritage homes torn down for glass condos, traffic detours that seem endless. And what's refreshing about the Village's approach is that it's evolution, not revolution. It's a city saying we don't need another downtown, we just need more complete neighborhoods. That means shorter commutes, stronger community identity, and better daily convenience. It also means fewer reasons for families to move out to the suburbs. Because if you can find a 3-bedroom townhouse near a new village hub with a park, a school, and a cafe all within walking distance, why would you ever leave? That's the vision, making Vancouver livable again for working families. Of course, no plan comes without challenges. The biggest risk is execution. If development charges, permitting delays, or infrastructure bottlenecks slow the rollout, momentum could stall, and that would frustrate both residents and investors alike. The other challenge is ensuring affordability actually materializes. If land speculation gets ahead of policy, if prices spike before projects even start, we could end up right back where we are now, expensive homes with little relief. That's why transparency and pacing are key in this scenario. If council phases rezonings gradually, allowing infrastructure to keep up, the plan has a real shot at success. But if they greenlight everything at once without coordination, we could see pushback and political fatigue before it even begins. If you're a homeowner, pay attention to whether your property falls inside or just adjacent to a proposed village. Future redevelopment potential could raise your property value or give you options for multi-unit infill. If you're a buyer, look for undervalued neighborhoods just outside of established hubs. Areas that are walkable but not yet trendy. That's where all this upside lives. If you're a small-scale developer or investor, this plan is your lane. These are projects in the 2 to 10 million range, not $200 million range. It's attainable development and it is coming in fast. And if you're a renter, this plan could finally deliver more mid-market rental stock instead of luxury investor condos. Vancouver isn't alone in this. Cities across North America are moving towards similar village or 15-minute city frameworks. Toronto's doing it in the Junction and Leslieville, Seattle's doing it in Ballard and Capitol Hill. But Vancouver has a unique opportunity because we already have the bones. Dense but livable neighborhoods, strong transit, and an engaged population. The Village's plan could make Vancouver the blueprint for sustainable mid-scale growth if it is done correctly. Change in Vancouver isn't coming, it's already here. The question is whether you'll recognize where it's happening before everybody else does. For the past decade, the biggest market winners have been those who anticipated growth corridors in Cambie, the Marine Drive area, Metrotown before they exploded. The next wave won't be about towers and SkyTrain stations, it's about small clusters. The future villages sprinkled throughout the city that quietly become the next Main Street or Commercial Drive. So if you're planning to buy, sell, or invest in Vancouver over the next few years, pull up the Village's plan map, look at where those 17 zones are, because in 2026, when council signs off and shovels start hitting the ground, those are the neighborhoods that will lead Vancouver's next chapter. And whether you see it as growth opportunity or disruption, one thing is for sure, the future of Vancouver isn't being built downtown anymore, it's being built in its villages. And if you need help with any of your real estate goals, make sure that you book into my calendar, scan the QR code in the banner, or the link is in the description below. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.